All right, welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, sharing in this now moment. Sorry, I'm floating away in the clouds here. I had to fix. But this Candice, thank you for playing today. Candice and I are going to just do a little flow, but we always get to talking when we get ready to do our double bubbles, and then 10 minutes into it, are like, oh, we should have recorded this. So we're not really sure. We're just starting off. Usually we take some time to do some intro. I'm just waking up literally 10 minutes ago. So I'm going to let Candice kind of read what you posted about the gene keys. And because you do that, you do readings on the gene keys and astrology, and also intuitively mapped in with that. And I have a tendency to have dreams. And I also have a tendency to have things that come out about astrology that I don't know about until I talk with Candice. And then she says, oh, yes, Virgo is in Venus right now, or Venus is in Virgo. And I'm like, well, that's funny because I was seeing this symbol that looks like Virgo. And anyway, so without further ado.
Yeah, it really makes it fun to see how you are picking up on the energy so intuitively. And it makes it fun to connect that to what we're seeing in the actual charts. It
Mhm.
just brings it to life in a more fun way and gives us confirmations for what we see and how we see. And I have people that do that for me. Like I like to dabble to a certain degree, but then I also like to have my own lived in experience. And then I have, some beings that I talk to that bring my dreams to life or interpret that. And you're one of them as well in your own way. Okay. So let me see where I can read this from because.
And I just kind of decided while you're looking that up, I'm just going to go into flow with you about the gene keys, and I'm going to kind of
Okay,
go
here
into
it
that
is.
field. Some people go into the Akash, some people go into the gene keys. I feel like I'm dipping in everything, so might as well play there too.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how that rolls out. Okay. So this is my post about the true sidereal 13 sign astrology placements of the now. And so these are little tidbits about Venus, okay? So Venus itself, these are just little notes about it. So awakens sentiments of love and sharing. It's our octave of attraction. Refinement of artistic preferences. So it involves all of the muses, arts, poetry, design, all the way into like what I do for work, aesthetics, cosmetics, all of that kind of stuff. It's about physical beauty and how we express physical beauty in the world and how we express our inspirations of beauty. We're really, it can be on a superficial level or on a deeply moved level to where you are trying to express your deepest connections to source and you're like creating an ode to life itself through that. Okay, so social orientation, beauty and form. Venus gives desire to polarize one's creative energies, be that with another being or the attraction of the artist for their subject. Polarization meaning the interchange of energies with the desired object to produce transformation or creation. So, we need to polarize in order to express.
Mhm.
So, my creative energy might be in oneness within myself, but I am actually polarizing it, to create something to show you, to even have something to show you is
Mhm.
polarity. So, there's something about Venus and the balance of masculine and feminine energy and the dance of those energies when they just come into creation itself. So Venus just entered Gene Key 6 in Virgo.
And how long does it stay there for?
That's a really great question. I would have to Google that. Venus and Mercury are moving faster than all the other planets. They're like our main aspects of ourself. So the moon, Venus, and Mercury are having, a lot more transits and a lot more activity. They're more of our dynamics expressive self.
Mhm.
So I tend to follow those ones a
Mhm.
lot. Well, not a lot more, but there's more activity going on. Um, so Venus in Gene Key 6, this is the area of the battle of the sexes. So
Oh.
that's what it says right there is the battle of the sexes. And it's moving from conflict to diplomacy to peace, um, bridging the gap. So this is my interpretation here.
Mhm.
So bridging the gap of the original wound of separation,
Mhm.
separating our masculine and feminine aspects and how we've almost been at war subtly and overtly
Mhm.
with our masculine and feminine aspects. But if you ask Venus, Venus is like in gratitude for this polarity, and Venus is like play, dance, create music, be inspired. How can we beautify this? And so on the lower frequency of this energy, it's like conflict. I'm in conflict with the polarity energies. I'm seeing it as something bad. I'm seeing it as something separated out of negativity. Whereas there's a real huge call for us to say, hey, we can have gratitude for this separation because this separation gives us the capacity to even have an experience. Let's get back to the actual point of separation, not the wound of separation.
Mhm.
We separated consciously and purposely. Let's get back to the point of it. The
Mhm. And
point
when
of
you're
it,
saying that, it's like I'm seeing a man and a woman splitting like a cell mitosis and standing across from each other. And what I'm seeing is a reflection like, oh, wow, you're beautiful. Oh, no, you're beautiful. And it's this beauty in the differences. And it just is, I'm getting goosebumps.
yes. And even when you said differences, it's like that differing energy, right? In the differences. And it's, I split to have a dance partner, right? I split to be in love, not just in that oneness, but to feel that love in duplicity. And
I'm looking up the
so
word while you do that. That's
please, yeah, I love that. So, exemplified by masculine and feminine aspects of all creation, inside self and outside self, expressed through our baseline creations. Let's retemplate and realize why creation split into polarity in the first place, though I just already said this all, and to appreciate the essential nature of the opportunity of co creation and cooperation with life as life. So that's the bit about Venus. And then our sun just recently moved into Gene Key 44, which is teamwork. Gene Key 44 is the synarchy, it's teamwork. It's moving into the higher octave of teamwork. So we were just talking about Venus and like a dance partner. So that's kind of more of like one on one and also like self and creation, artist and art piece. Um, so that kind of felt more on the small scale, but the 44 is like, okay, now we've got that down pat. Now, how are we all dancing together in a group? Now, how are we all
collectively.
co-creating collectively in that synarchy? So you can
Mm.
see how that energy kind of moves through the chart in this way in this conversation.
So wait, the sun just went into what again? Sorry, say that again.
That's okay. So the sun just went into Ophiuchus, the
Okay.
serpent bear, the 13 sign. This is the one that I go off about, like the
And
number 13
44,
and 44.
whole,
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yes, it's a whole thing. So very excited. Yeah. Um, so we just broke away from this really intense aspect of Mars conjunct the sun in Scorpio. So if you feel some relief today, we just moved into this healing energy of the serpent bearer of Ophiuchus, who's I always just see it as like a healing balm moving through whatever satellite is there. So the sun is in Ophiuchus and Mercury is in Ophiuchus in Gene Key 14. So, and I'll mention that just in a second. So the sun just moved in to Ophiuchus in Gene Key 44. Again, saying, how are we all working together in this higher octave? The moon is in Gene Key 3, which we just had some aspects in. Um, that's chaos, right? That's the chaos, that's the coyote. Um, so moving from our emotional chaos into how can we get creative with this chaos soup of emotions, move it into an innovative energy and maybe play with it, which is invoking our innocence. So accessing our innocent creatorship through innovation, how can we make something useful? And then I mentioned Mercury and Ophiuchus. Mercury is in Gene Key 14, opening a pathway of higher communication. Mercury in 14 says, how are we compromising?
Mhm.
How have we, so it's not saying don't compromise with people. Compromising externally helps the world go round. But when we compromise internally, then we are starting to compromise our integrity. Then we're living out of alignment and we're not in the vortex. We take ourselves out of the vortex.
You just hit so many. This is what happens.
I just took you through the ping pong machine. Carrie's going.
so, so I was holding back because I just can't. Um, so I'm much more one of the things, if you guys, if you're watching this on my channel, you'll know that I have a tendency to be really technical and kind of out of, like, I play with words a lot. So many words came through that were just pinging off of what you're describing. And I just have to share a couple before we continue. Number
Yes.
one is, it's ironic because we have these, the sun and the moon and Venus and all this beautiful stuff. And it's just, I feel like lately, when you said we just came out of, what was it, the sun, was it the sun that was in Scorpio, or?
The Sun Mars conjunct in Scorpio.
So here's the perfect example. I don't know much about astrology, and you and Jess and Quirky, Carrie Ann, have all tried to help me over the years. And for some reason, it just kind of rolls off like a raindrop, and whatever sticks, and the rest just kind of goes away. But I think that this last 2 weeks, specifically, maybe this last week, energetically was one of the most difficult weeks I have personally experienced. And I don't necessarily think I had a lot of things going on that would cause that. I mean, I have things going on in my personal life, certainly, that I'm dealing with as everybody else does. It felt very intense, and our sensitivity. I mean, my sensitivity was just off the charts. And not to say that now the sun has moved, that's going to shift. I almost think the word I'm hearing was initiation. So it's like this initiation into this new movement. And it's kind of like you said, the pinball machine. It's like this pinging off of all these different planetary energetics. And I had written down, well, I drew this little guy when you said the poles. And I was seeing these as energetic lines. And then this was something that I drew the other day, but it's been coming up a lot for me, almost like a Stargate. And I've had so many synchronicities around that, which just looks like a donut with letters around it. But then I wrote down Indra's net, and I had all these references to the diamonds in the toroidal field. And then I had a reference of us going through, and I looked at this yesterday after sending you girls a message. I'll have to share it on here because I want everybody to see. My husband was even like, that's crazy, because he turned on the TV, picked a show, and I'm looking at the show, and the background of the show is this picture I had just drawn, which looked like that. And he is not into any of this, and he said, that's weird. So
Okay.
dipole, a pair of equal and oppositely charged or magnetized poles separated by distance. Now, I could go off. I'm just going to make this short. We're going to come back to this.
Okay.
Or if we could just dive in if you want.
Go for it. And then I want to talk about Indra's net after.
Okay. So this is I'm just on dictionary. So a pair of equal and oppositely charged or magnetized, which you had said the magnetization, we're magnetizing to us, separated by a distance. But in actuality, distance isn't really, when we're looking at quantum theory, it's not.
No, it's separated by a die stance, like the stance of the dies, right? That dipole. It's just separated by a choice, really, by a choice to.
Ironic piece.
Ooh. Oh, yeah, I didn't even see that. Oh my gosh. And that's Gene Key 6. That's Gene Key 6 where Venus is. It's from conflict to peace.
Oh, that's so funny. And I feel like that means so much. See, this is how the synchronicities work for me. It's like this constant synchronization of symbols to kind of guide us and show all of the connection points or all the ping pongs or all of the. So in chemistry, it's a molecule in which a concentration of positive electric charge is separated from a concentration of negative charge. But I always like to just pull up, I could share this on screen, but I'm just going to share the picture if you can see it. Oops, I have my clouds in the back. I'll put it up here.
Oh,
But go
yeah.
ahead, share what you were going to say, and I'll bring it up.
Well, what you just said is, again, what is being said of Venus. It's polarization, meaning the interchange of energies with the desired object to produce transformation or creation itself. It created positive and negative energies literally to play with them. It
Mm-hmm.
literally just went like this to go, wow, this is beautiful. Now, how can I create with the beauty that I feel within me? And
I
just
love
went
that.
boof, right? So instead of going like, that's negative, that's positive, that's getting all angry about creation, it's like remembering that this was intended. Let's get back to the point.
Oh, and I love, so when you're talking about this too, so I'm diving into the technical because, and I want to share why, because sometimes people will watch these videos and go, I have no idea why you're talking about this, these types of words and such. But part of this is, it's a representation. Oops, I'm going to pause just for a moment.
Okay.
My dog just decided to come in and, okay, sorry about that. Little bit of a distraction, but I really want to just kind of touch on this because everything that you're describing, Kandice, I see in symbols. And when I see it in symbols, for me, it helps me make sense of the quantum. It helps me make sense of that deeper connection to source that through chemistry, through physics, all of it.
I'm just like feeling, I don't know, in my imagination, and I'm just feeling myself with all of these elements in my hand. I can't like I feel an Indra's net. I feel like there's molecules in here, and I'm hearing connection points. It's
Okay,
like
tell me
you
about
are.
Indra's net too. I didn't mean to cut
Yes,
you off.
yes, yes. No, that's okay. You're talking about like why the physics, why the chemistry, and I'm coming from almost like an esoteric science here with the astrology, which is also chemistry, right? Venus, we can go into the compositions of the planet. We can go into the chemistry of the planet and how that represents a quality and an energy, and why and how does the planet, how is this even relevant for us? And so as the sun is streaming energy through to us, and the constellations are suns that are streaming energy through the planets that's filtering an energy. So when those neutrino streams hit us, they're coming through us through Venus. So that is how we're embedded and imbued with all of these qualities.
Yeah.
We're constantly being bombarded and saturated with particles. So you can almost see the planets on the outside as your external organelles.
Mm-hmm.
And the planets have, they're a collection of luminous fibers, just like we are. They are just as we are. They have consciousness, they have intent, they have, ooh, what's that sound? So anyways, I don't know if that, helps draw in, like
Yes.
it's a lot of people think of astrology as not a science, and they
Mm-hmm.
don't understand the geometrical and physics nature and chemistry nature that is involved with astrology.
Yeah.
For example, just a random thing, and then I'll go into interest net. On November 13th, I felt as if I was being hit by fragments of light.
Yep.
I felt like I was a planet Earth and I was being bombarded and hit by
Yep.
meteorites, lights.
Yeah.
And we speak to one another. We speak to hundreds of sisters across the globe, and many of them feel it on their backs. They're like, I feel like I'm being, you know,
Yep. I felt like
uh,
someone was standing behind me, just doing this across my shoulders.
yeah. So we're getting these
It's
lights, this
palpable.
this influx of light. And then we're seeing articles like, there was an article that came up on New Science that said that there was a, what do you call it? we had been hit with these particles from the void, from a void space, a void in space that we didn't even know, a cosmic void that we don't even know how this light came to us from this void space. It hit the earth, and it was the second largest register of energy that we've ever been hit with in our known understanding within our equipments,
Mm-hmm.
once we've had the equipment to pick up those signals.
Right.
And so we felt that
Mm-hmm.
we're feeling these things. So we can trust our body, we can trust our intuition,
Yeah.
and we're learning how to use these equipments that we are. It's really fascinating.
I think that's important too because it's this is also it's not just about us going online and reading our chart. It's about
Right.
us feeling what's going on energetically because part of what I feel that we're doing, and we've talked about this of course so many times, is we are expanding. We are
Mm.
remembering more of our, and this is something my guides have been saying nonstop lately. It's like open to more of what you already are. And you already are connected to all things. Therefore, if there
Mm.
is a massive earthquake going on Earth, we're going to feel the distress in our bodies. We're going to feel the tectonic plates shift. We're going to feel the solar flares. I'm very sensitive to solar flares. Other people are
Yes, you
really
are.
not.
Yes, you are.
I'm like, what is happening? Oh, okay. That's what it is. It's crazy. And, some people would say, well, that's not possible, but why not? We're all chemical elements composed in this physical body. And some of us are more sensitive in some of those elemental areas than others. And maybe it has something to do with Venus is in our chart and we have more of that in our body than somebody else might, because we're all, even though we're one, we have a unique individual way of expressing and feeling the interactions that we have with all things that are separate from us yet part of us as well. And the solar stuff, all the planetary stuff, we are all, whether we realize it or not, connected to it.
Yeah, we're all, whether we realize it or not, influenced by what we can call the cosmic weather that we're not separate from. It looks like we are because we have an atmosphere, we have this element of this illusion of separation with the barriers, but there are energies and things that cross the barriers, that cross even walls. Neutrinos go right through everything.
Mm-hmm.
And the ancients and the ancient Babylonians and do, they used astrology for farming. They used astrology as a very practical means to live their life, and it was their weather system.
Yeah.
They didn't have the technology that we had today. They didn't have the time that we had today. They had the sun, the moon, and the stars and the seasons, and they
Yeah.
learned this synastry to read the moving energies, and they had a real in-depth connectivity
Mm-hmm.
to the living star map. Their mapping system was alive, and they were learning in real time to work with
Yeah.
this ability to see. And so there, yeah, and I think at one time there was a decision to shut that connection down. It's like, well, not everybody gets to have that power. Not everybody gets to have that connection. Let's create a time system to rule everyone by. Let's create a neat little astrology um, description that people can follow. And but they made it out of alignment. Everything was created out of alignment, our timing system and everything just slightly off so that we're
Yeah.
not in our true center. And so this is our return back to that
Mm-hmm.
directly through ourselves. And I would say that that's our journey of remembering
Mm-hmm.
that we are directly connected, and
Yeah.
that we've done this before in many different places. And so we're bringing the knowing and our creational ability into the human experience this
Yeah.
time. And we're doing this here.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really fun and exciting. So when you said InteresNet, I remembered that there's a gene key that's associated with InteresNet. And it is like the main gene key of all the gene keys that speaks
Ah,
of, yeah, this is why it's fun.
yeah. See, this is so funny. I mean, it's just okay, but please carry on.
So this is gene key 55, and it speaks about this incredible mutation that humanity is going through. So IndrasNet and the 55th shadow of victimization. The 55th gene key and the mystical journey from its shadow to its siddhi truly form the heart of the entire work of the 64 gene keys. There is no more poignant nor contemporary note sounded within the whole genetic matrix than this odyssey through the seething underworld of victim mentality and out into the pure, clear air of freedom. Of all the gene keys, this is the one we humans most long for, and this is the gift we will soon be given at a collective level. The entire reason behind the timing of this work on the 64 gene keys lies here within the 55th shadow. It has been the theme of humanity since the development of the human neocortex that gave us our capacity for self-reflective consciousness. It is the theme of the victim. And this is again what we were talking about. It's like we didn't separate as a wound. We separated as a gift. We separated as a creation. We have
Yeah.
to remember the point that we did this. You know, it's like the hand together, the hand apart. Ooh, now I have fingers. Ooh, now I can grab, you know. If everything was together in a mound, I wouldn't be able to have the experience that I have. So we separated the fingers,
Mm-hmm.
right? They separated the eyes so that we can have this more, right? The 55th shadow of victimization and its programming partner, the 59th shadow of dishonesty. That in and of itself. So when we are not honest with ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and in our surroundings, we feel like a victim. When we cannot honestly see that we were separated to create life,
Yeah.
when we feel it was a wound, we are not in honesty. We are feeling victimized by life itself.
Mm-hmm.
Even the fact that we're living, we're like, why am I here? I didn't choose to be here. Who brought me here? You know, like
I
some
never feel like that.
some people, some
Just
people,
kidding. I totally have.
some people blame their mother for
Yeah.
their life because they're like, I never asked to be here. You created me, you know, I never asked for this forsaken life. And it's like, well,
Yep.
you're here, so you must want to be here. You're in denial with your choice, my friend. And that's a journey in and of itself to begin the journey from victimization to freedom. That's 55 to true freedom. So it's like there's freedom twice in that key because it's like
Mm-hmm.
there's freedom and then there's actual freedom.
Mm-hmm.
We hit a point in the middle where we're like, I feel pretty free, but it's like, you could be more free,
Yeah.
right? Like that's where we're at. It's
Well, I
like,
also see that too with the victimization. It's like even that can be a layer. It's like, I'm not a victim. I'm strong. I can beat this. I can fight this. But in
mhm,
actuality, you're still fighting against something,
that's
which
right.
brings you back to the, I don't know, us versus them mentality or he
The
versus she,
battle, the
I
battle of
versus
the, yeah,
everybody else, whatever it is, that
yeah.
separation again.
Yeah, that's battle of the battle of the sexes, which really means the battle of the polarities. So that's the energy of conflict. Just
Mm-hmm.
everything is a conflict, and I'm hearing like conflicted, right? Inflicted,
Yes.
conflicted, like flicking. It's like
And I
everything
do
is like
see this
ah.
too as symbolic as far as I don't know why I'm being called to bring this up, but I'm going to because what happens is I hear words as we're talking or I'll see pictures. And one of the things I've been feeling as we've been talking about this is it's almost a shift in this awareness of what we've been seeing ourselves as, what we've seen other. I'm trying to put this into words. The
Mhm.
shift in awareness. Earlier, I said initiation, it's and I use the word stargate, which I think of as a portal, which I know is different, but there's something to all of this, almost like the way I see it is we're just holding a completely different vibration and space point in time. That's a play on words. Space point in time. So we could play with that for a moment.
Yeah,
So
I'd
but
love
we'll
to.
just stick with the basics. I'll come back to space point in time because that's so I could play with that in 10 different ways. We are in a completely different trajectory, holding a completely different vibrational match frequency, a completely different frequency in which we are able to match our consciousness because our consciousness or awareness of ourselves has expanded, which must then be supported by the universe, the system, the planets, everything else, or vice versa. So this is our, oh, what I'm hearing is behest. Like, who we're asking for this. Why do we don't want to be that. We don't want to be. That's an old program. It's an old system. And so we're dancing in a completely different way with all of the planetary alignments here to kind of support us and create space in order for us to feel more expansive. And what I'm hearing is responsive. So it's helping us to respond to this growth through this chaos and actually be able to see things from a completely different back to point space in time. Or did I say point space? It's like we're pointing in a different direction. We're looking at from a different time, a different angle, a completely different place on that toroidal field. So everything has shifted. Yet it doesn't look like that from from a broader perspective. It's like, I don't know, there's just so much there.
Yes, I feel like, it might not look like it. I'm hearing we're not in Kansas anymore.
Huh.
Like we're
Right.
not, right? And then, when Dorothy comes back to Kansas, she's had this whole journey. She'll never see Kansas the same.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
We've
different
gone
now.
through this Stargate, we've gone through this portal, and now we're looking back like, oh, yeah, we're not in Kansas anymore. What
No,
is this?
no.
What is this?
Yeah,
Where
what
am
is
I?
this? Yes. And so we really are re-seeing everything now. And everything has a different ring to it. It's got a different octave, it's got a different quality. And we are somehow, when you were speaking, I was like, we're holding this door open. We're holding this stargate. We're forming this stargate,
Yeah.
all of us around in this constellation on the body of the earth. We're holding this doorway, this corridor.
Mhm.
I would love to go and play with you a little bit later about that image. And was that Indra's net? That was what that was?
Well, what happened was I was doing a video and I was channeling and I had seen a toroidal donut that had a net, diamonds,
Mm.
all the diamonds
Oh
inside that make it a net. So it was this
my
diamond
gosh. Okay, okay, okay.
toroidal.
Yes, 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 yes.
And then I'd seen like
So,
letters all around it and numbers. And so I just drew that. It was a terrible rendition.
oh, so I don't know if this is connected, but I was laying in bed last night and I did this before I went to bed too. I was kind of laying on my couch meditating.
Mhm.
And I was tapping into this core essence. This is my obsession lately is going into the core essence and letting the energy that's within the core essence, whatever that is, wherever that is, I'm like, I'm tapping into that. That's where I'm going. Core
Yeah.
essence. Here I am. And then letting that come out and just envelop me and
Yeah.
repatternize. I'm like, yep, do your thing. Update me. Take over. Do it. I'm yours. Take me, I'm yours. And so with with my third eye, or whatever eye I was using, my inner
The
eye,
eye.
looking at the core essence, I was seeing the most gloriously sparkly thing I've ever seen in my life that I almost started squealing like my 4-year-old daughter. It was like the tip of this just, I can't even explain it. The most sparkly, the most glistening, the most gorgeous, glittery thing I've ever seen. And it almost felt like it was coming up into my third eye and like tickling me and shining all of these glistening rays and I could almost feel it, hear it. And I was just like, I'm like, is that the core?
What
I
is
don't
that?
even care what it was. It was so amazing. And so I accessed it again last night. I was like, I gotta see that again. I gotta feel that again. That was amazing.
Well, I gotta pause this for a minute. That is so funny. I love it. Okay, so I've seen that, by the way. I'm laughing because I've seen that before. This crazy, undulating, glittery glitter ball.
Glitter
It's like
ball,
glitter ball
disco
plasma.
ball, plasma, glitterly disco
Mhm.
ball of like of joy.
Mhm.
Or like or
So I think it's really important to talk about just a couple things with that,
Okay.
since we're
Okay.
in, because like you and I have experienced stuff like this before. So it's amazing. Like, so how did you feel, right, when you allowed it to kind of ripple through you? Where can you give us a little description of what that, just for anybody listening going, well, I don't know what that, have I experienced? What does that feel like? What does that look like? Well, we know what it looks
Okay.
like, but
Okay. I've got it.
mhm.
So I'm hearing a wind chime. Okay, I'm hearing a wind chime. I'm feeling a warm breeze with the wind chime and just a glistening sound. And I'm also seeing the shining light of the sun reflecting off a beautiful water, that glistening. And then at the same time, listen to the wind chime. It's like,
Mhm.
and then and the waving water and the sunlight and then just the wind on your skin and just your heart opening and just feeling the absolute beauty of the natural elements.
Okay, I love that. I think it's important to talk about the physical sensations and experience too, because so often I will have a conversation with someone and they'll go, "Well, I don't know what that feels like," or, "Well, I can't get there," or, and I want to just back up for just a moment, because really what it is all about is just opening to the moment and being open to feel and being in our
Mm-hmm.
hearts. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you're in a place, like if some people would see this glistening, undulating glitter ball and go, I think that's kind of weird and scary.
Oh man, it was so beautiful. And I was just hearing diamond heart,
Hmm.
diamond heart.
So the diamond is coming up a lot, and of course Indra's net. If you look at the toroidal net of a Taurus, it looks like diamonds. The shape are diamonds inside of it. Like if you just look up a net, or if you look at all the drawings on old ancient texts, a lot of those drawings look like diamonds. And when you put them all together, it creates a net. And you had been talking about us creating this portal or stargate, and I'm thinking of our bodies actually also being part of that. I had seen us kind of, you said we're kind of like holding open the door, or maybe that's what I heard. And I see that too. I see that too. It's like we're giving, um, it's almost like creating this, to describe what I'm seeing. You know those visions that they have if you've ever watched a movie of where there's a spaceship, but you can't see it. It's got the cloaking device on, but you can see
Yeah.
it. That's kind of what it looks like to me. Like there's something there. We're creating this portal. We're creating this, and it's there. It's like talking to us, but it's almost like you have to feel it in
You have to
order.
be you have to be open and attuned to it. And you've prepared the soil, right? You prepare the soil, you prepare your being for the perceptivity.
Mhm.
And there's definitely a readiness. And I'm getting that whole analogy of like this plant who's in this super dry, crunchy soil. And if you pour water, the water will just go over because the soil's not ready. So
Yeah.
you almost have to pre-water it first to then
Yeah.
give it the
Oh,
drink
I
that
love
it
that.
needs, right?
Hmm.
So we're very much like that.
Hmm.
Very, very much like that.
I love that. And then that reminds me of hydration, because you can't hydrate unless you have a little bit. It's too dry. So it's just going to be,
Mm.
it's not wasted, but all of that excess doesn't get absorbed, doesn't really
Right.
fully get, poured into it. It ends up
Mm.
not absorbing all of the nutrients that are actually available to it. I know we just went into like so many different.
Whoa. Well, yeah. And it's like, how do you walk someone who might be so out of, and I don't think that anyone's watching this who hasn't prepared their soil a little bit.
No way. You guys have
Like,
made it
let's
this
be
far on this
honest.
video.
Let's be honest.
Um,
I'm pretty sure we're not working with or talking to people that have just no idea. That's just, they've just walked off the train and they're like, who are
yes.
you? You know,
And if you did, welcome.
welcome. You're amazing.
This is all a process and all a journey, and we're all doing it in our own way.
And that's a really good thing to say because someone could. They could
Hmm.
just go like boop, boop, boop. I get it. Thank you. I'm in. I feel it. I got it. Like instantaneous. And like it took me years.
This is true. There are some people that it just, and too, you bring up so back to the planetary stuff, something like that massive neutrino, whatever, star pulsar, whatever it
No, look
was,
for it.
that could have activated someone to the point of all of a sudden they understand things that didn't ever, maybe they didn't even ever have questions about reality. And all of a sudden they're like, I can see the universe. My third eye is open. Um, so I feel like that can happen for people too. So that's something to keep in mind. This is where it's important for us not to really see ourselves as separate from our brothers and sisters and recognize that we all have our own little
Oh,
journey.
I have the blur thing too.
Yeah.
This is the article. A mysterious, incredibly energetic cosmic ray has smashed into Earth. Astronomers have detected the second most powerful cosmic ray ever recorded, but it seems to have come from an empty region of the universe known as the cosmic void, where there's nothing obvious it could have originated from.
Yeah.
So, this mysterious cosmic ray, which is probably a charged particle nucleus of some variety, such as carbon and oxygen, has been dubbed Amaterasu. Oh my gosh, I butchered that. Amaterasu, after the Japanese sun goddess. So they named this
Ooh.
particle after a goddess, and I didn't know that. And when I was having my experience on the 13th of receiving this particle, I explained it as the arrival of her. And I
Yes.
said, it's the solar Christic feminine energy. It's the solar Christ. That was my version of the Japanese sun goddess. I was receiving it as a solar feminine energy.
Yeah. Isn't that
So that's
interesting?
fascinating that they just said that in the article. Whoa.
So when you say
That's
solar
awesome.
feminine, I tend to go into the solar plexus and the sacral chakra as well, because I'm seeing the sun as the solar plexus, I'm seeing the
Mhm.
feminine as the sacral, I'm
Mm.
seeing the heart, and I'm also seeing intuitive because we tend
Sacral
to be,
sacred.
mhm. I don't know, I'm just kind of putting it together in the physical
No,
body.
that's really beautiful. And that has a connection again to the 55. That's where the mutation happens in the solar plexus.
Ah, ooh, goosebumps.
Yeah, it's all connected. It's all connected. And we are asking for it. If we're getting a cosmic ray from the cosmic void and it's come out of nowhere and like whatever, and it's got all this energy, we're asking for the ingredients that we need. And that's what I call for within myself when I'm asking within myself. I don't pray externally. I see it in my own way, and this is just what I've come to is that we are the prayer, and a prayer is a co-creation with the universe in saying like, can you fulfill me the ingredients that I need, that I require
Yeah.
to co-create this thing that I want to create? And it's making love. I see it as making love and not in the way that we view it. It's that Venus, it's that energy of like, I want to co-create. And it's deeper than a want. It's like I feel this, I birth this, I create this, co-create. And that to me is the energy of prayer. It's the vibration, and it's you could say it's the law of attraction or the
Yeah.
law of intraction. It's the law in traction. As I intract, as I attract, as I magnetize to myself that which I require,
Mhm.
positively or negatively, magnetically or electrically. Just recognizing myself humbly within creation as a creator aspect. So I'm I was just gonna say I'm getting jiggy with it.
As you said you were getting jiggy with it, I was hearing jigger like the measuring that you use for bartending. See, we can all use symbols according to our own experiences for different interpretations of the same information. It's like
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm just
Yeah.
saying it's a measurement. Like, here you go, here's your measurement of drink this, and this will help you, spoonful of sugar. Um,
Mhm.
Creating through our imagination. You know, also too, oh gosh, we could go into so many different directions here. I know I said I was going to try to just channel like the Gene Key message, so maybe I should let you finish. Or were you
This is
finished?
awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Oh God.
Where the Gene Key 6 is connected to the ring of alchemy,
Mm,
which
okay.
that, right? We're in the ring of alchemy. We're in the ring of alchemization,
The
right?
Ring of Alchemy. What?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, that looks like the gene key wheel that you know, it looks like the gene key wheel. It looks like the key of the wheel of DNA. It looks
Yeah.
like and then we're tapping into the ancient runes and what are runes and what are these symbols of power and energy that we constructed at one time with our imagination.
Mm,
At one time, we knew just directly that we are creator particles. We are particles of creation that create with creation through creation. So we were working directly with our elemental nature in ways that seem so mysterious and so outlandish. And we call it magic and we think it's a make believe because it is something that we do make believe. We make it real, we make it be alive.
mm,
And so yesterday in my kitchen, I was cleaning my kitchen and I'm like, I'm all in this way now. I'm totally shifting the way that I perceive and experience reality.
mm.
So I'm like, feeling some funky stuff happening in my back. And I'm like, how do I want to assist myself? And I'm like, I call within me. I call within me, within my imaginal self that I am, a golden bird. Like just I have then that's a whole other story. So I'm like, I call a golden bird and I just felt this golden bird. I created it. I felt like I just really drew it to myself. And I was like, can you get that? And I was just feeling this golden bird come and like with its talons take all of this stuff off of my back
Mhm.
and just feeling this golden energy. And I was like, thank you. Like you are going to be my helper from now on. That
I love that.
I've called and I've created from the elementary nature, from the principles of um the principle of creation and allowance. Like it's just this whole new relationship with.
But see, that's the thing. That's we're in a different point, space, time point, and space and time. So again, I'm coming back to that as you were saying it, because
Mm,
it is a matter of us using our energy in a very different way.
yeah.
And if we are using our imagination to, you said internalize, which is a play on words for sure. Internal,
Yes.
realize from inside, right? Rather than keeping it inside. And internalization, most of the time I realize as I speak, there's all double meanings. You can look at it this way or you can look at it that way. And the imagination, the images that we create inside and we birth them or project them onto our map of reality is even more potent when we actually give ourselves the power, or better spoken, recognize that we have the power, or better spoken, let go of the all of the stuff, or acknowledge that we're feeling separate from our ability to be this creative force. And I'm just thinking back to Venus, you know, male versus female, victim versus controller, whatever it might be. It's coming back and taking our power and saying, I have the power to create this imaginative force within me. And what can
Mm,
that do? And ultimately, what does that do? All it does is shift your frequency and your vibration. It creates thought patterns that allow you to open to more of the connection to this ultimate source that we're all connected to and through. And
mhm,
then as soon as you let down these walls, if we want to call it that, and I'm hearing firewalls. Like,
mm,
it's not that those walls were bad. We're not judging what those walls are. They were put in place because we felt at the time, or didn't consciously realize, but we created them to create a place from which to create from safely, right? Those were our
Mm-hmm.
safety walls, our safety mechanisms. But now we are in completely held in a completely different point, space, and time from my perspective. So
Mm-hmm.
therefore, those firewalls are no longer necessary. They need to,
Relevant,
exactly. Yeah.
outdated.
For, yes,
Mm-hmm.
corrupted sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's time to move through them.
Mm-hmm.
Got goosebumps everywhere. I can't. Woo. Um, should we go? I'm going to pause just for a moment. Um, okay, we're going to continue and just kind of wrap this up with Kandice reading, beginning with the, going back to the beginning and reading some of the gene keys. So go for it, Kandice.
Okay, so I'm just going to briefly read a couple things from Gene Key 6, The Way of Diplomacy, and moving from the shadow of conflict to the gift of diplomacy. And it's largely talking about relationships. When we look deeply and honestly into relationships, we see something else. We see that this person is allowing us to access inner conflict inside ourselves, a conflict that runs very, very deep. It's the conflict we have with the unconscious fears in our DNA. It's our part of our ancestral legacy, an older part of our brain. It takes a big person to admit they have deep fears inside of them. Once we begin to realize that these fears are inside and not outside, we break out of the patterns that are holding that relationship at the shadow frequency. And that can be our relationship with existence,
Ooh.
right? That's our relationship, all our relations,
Can we do
infinitely
part
inward.
two?
Yeah, maybe we should.
Because you just said that, and I had looked up diplomacy, and it says ultimately from Latin letter. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. Diplo, dipole,
Oh, yeah,
diplo,
yeah,
diplomacy, folded in
yeah.
two.
Whoa.
Sorry.
Yeah, we should definitely do a part two.
Mm-hmm. So the diplomacy, I think, needs to be played with a lot in this.
So, and
Keep going.
it talks about dropping your defense mechanisms. And you just said firewall, outdated firewalls,
Mm-hmm. There
right?
we go.
This is where we begin to let go of our protection mechanisms, the defense strategies we learned in early childhood, and we begin to be vulnerable again. That's that softening of the soil. That's preparing the ground from that hard, dry, rigid rock soil to the
Mm-hmm.
soil that can actually receive the rain and the nutrients
Yeah.
and the energy that so we can even be perceptive to the disco ball of shimmering light.
Sorry.
Right?
Shiny disco ball.
Disco.
Disco, disco.
We go into our wound and feel, share, accept, and transform it. Every human being is emotionally vulnerable until they drop their protective defenses, the defenses around their hearts. And as long as our hearts remain defended and closed, they can't heal. The hurt can't be felt, expressed, and released. Conflict is the prima materia of our evolutionary journey. It's where we need it's where we most need to focus our attention. We have to own it. So let's look at our relationships in our lives. They're the gold dust. They contain the seeds of inner peace. Let's not shy away from them, but take courage and move towards them with an open mind and heart. We can allow ourselves to be vulnerable and hurt, except for physically, of course. When the hurt comes, we can own it, listen to it, learn from it, and learn to parent ourselves. The other person is not responsible for our feelings. In response to the hurt, we are. So, this is all about looking after our own heart and learning to bring it back to life. It's not that we have to keep putting ourselves in the firing line, but we have to see that these relationships, these conflicts are always here. They're where the transformation occurs. And once we begin to heal ourselves inward, then these relationships no longer have this hold on us. That's the reality, right? That old reality no longer has that hold on us when we've gone deep inside and done this.
Yeah.
That's how we're changing the reality. That's how we're accessing this stargate.
Mm-hmm. Ooh. And that just brought me back into diamond. So,
Oh my
and
gosh, and diamonds are a girl's best friend.
yeah, that's right. And I was
Where
hearing
did
rock
that
on
come
gold dust
from?
woman earlier because you were like gold dust. Oh my gosh, the songs. Um, Part of all of this too is it's a new chapter. It's like, how do you want to write this next chapter of your life? You
Yeah.
can use a lot of the old models and programs, or you can see them for what they are. You can see them for the value that they had, and you can continue to give more value to them, or you can recognize where the distortions are, or the corroded files or corrupted files, and let down certain, and it is the heart. It's the heart. The firewall is, us being in a place of compassion and forgiveness of ourselves, our
Yeah.
relationships, and even if we've been, I'm going back to that, I don't know why the victim thing is coming up a lot, but
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people are in kind of feeling that a little bit. So it's a little bit of even forgiving ourselves for being that, because you can.
For our own creations and our own miscreations because we just didn't really understand or have the wherewithal at that time, and that's okay.
And I'm kind of hearing it's kind of like when you what is it when you give someone who I can't think of the word right now. When you're encouraging someone to do something and you realize that you're enabling them. It's like we didn't realize
Mm,
that we were actually the enablers and we thought we were
yeah.
doing the right thing, but now it's like, all right, I'm not going to enable this part of me anymore because that no longer fits who I really am or who I ever was.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so freeing.
Yes.
There's the juice. Okay, we're going to end on that note just because we have to, time wise. Otherwise, we could keep going. Thank you so much for playing, Candice, as always. We'll do this again. We'll to be continued. Candice and I are trying to make this happen once a week. So, but in the meantime, everybody in love and light, thank you so much for tuning in. Namaste. And we will pick this up at a later time.